At a young age, I asked my father what the area we live in was like when he was a child. He told me that our community didn't really exist when he was a child, that the area was filled with woods and farmlands that he and his friends would ride bikes through. I asked him if he knew then that he would one day raise a family in that small wooded farmland. He smiled and said he had no idea. The area of River Ridge, though not recognized as a very important part of the New Orleans area today, was looked at quite differently when early settlers arrived in 1803 after the Louisiana Purchase. A map entitled Le Plan de Local de las Tierras que Rodigen la Ciudad de Nueva Orleans was created in the early 1800s as a schematic for the early settlements of the land surrounding the city of New Orleans. The most notable of these plantations were Sauve, Fourche, Lone Star, Trudeau, Holiday, and Providence plantations, which lined the river in the area of current-day River Ridge.
There had to have been some sort of plantation somewhere. Where was it?
Well,
Because I can tell you what, my mom said when we built our house on Citrus, there was already St. Augustine grass planted and remains of like slave quarters over there, they were told. So where was the nearest plantation?
the Sauve plantation, which was the site of that crevasse, the 1849 crevasse that flooded the city for months.
During this era, the levees that lined the Mississippi River were much smaller than they are today, and the plantation owners who owned each segment of the land were held responsible to maintain their own section of the levee. However, on May 3, 1849, the segment of the levee under the ownership of Pierre Sauve Plantation ruptured, then collapsed, creating what will forever be known as the Sauve Crevasse. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of water from the Mississippi River flooded down into the below sea level areas of New Orleans, reaching all the way from the Metairie and Gentilly Ridges to downtown Canal Street. The flood left 12,000 homeless and was recorded as the worst flood in New Orleans history until Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Sauve Road continues to be a main thoroughfare in River Ridge, located at the site of the Sauve Plantation. A sign at the intersection of Sauve Road and Jefferson Highway stands still today as a historical reminder of the Sauve Crevasse. In 1920, brothers George and Gus Precher purchased farmlands in the Jefferson Parish known as the OK Farms, which were named for the OK Railway, which ran through the area at this time. And in 1921, the brothers subdivided the land as J.H. Little Farms. The area was named for the Little Farms Playground, where the area's first community center was built, and for the gravel road that passed through the area known as Jefferson Highway, which had been constructed in the 1910s.
There's only one road that goes all the way up and down, which is Jefferson Highway.
Jefferson Highway was a two-lane highway. All the roads into dairies and stuff were all gravel. Sauve Road was a gravel road all the way to the back.
Jefferson Highway at first glance may appear as any other highway. However, it is actually part of a national auto trail system, reaching all the way into Winnipeg, Canada, created in order to help travelers in the early days of automobiles. Though the highway's name changes at various points throughout its route, through cities such as Kansas City, Missouri, Des Moines, Iowa, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, the highway continues to be referred to throughout its route as the Palm to Pine Highway.
When Pat started in high school and started having kids over from Old Metairie or whatever, or the other kids on the wrestling team, and he would say, "Oh, I live in River Ridge," even the coaches were like, "Where's that?"
And it felt like the edge of the city, and somewhere far out into the country. That's what we thought it was.
And I had no idea where River Ridge was. I was like, this is beautiful. This is like be living in the country.
I think when I caught the school bus out here on Sauve Road, there were 4 of us, because they only had about 4 houses back Sauve Road. We were considered from the country, and if the girls came out here to the borders, they would have to get permission, written permission, to come spend the weekend, because they were coming to the country.
Many of the residents in the area embraced the small suburbs' rural qualities and enjoyed their little bit of country in the city.
And We did everything that I guess people in the city did, but we rode horses a lot.
It used to be a bunch of little chicken farms, like from street to street.
And we used to have turkeys at the log cabin, and Dad used to make us go out and made me catch the turkey, and that was part of the Thanksgiving feast. We would kind of have, for turkey, it was a tradition to go out and catch your own turkey and have that turkey for Thanksgiving.
When we had a dairy at one time, the bull got out and it ran down the highway. We had to go catch that. We had a goat that got out, all kinds of animals.
We hunted all up in here, beautiful hardwood trees and all. You can see the oak trees around here now. You can tell some of them are 100-something years old. And they had foxes and coons and rabbits and deer and all of that.
We spent a lot of time on our front porch on a Sunday evening because we didn't have air conditioning or anything. We'd count cars, who was going up and down. But other than that, you didn't do too much.
Now they're all houses there. There's no more farmland. It's all houses.
Like in Little Farms, there was only a little bridge, and you'd cross that bridge to get to the airline highway, and that was really the only way in to Little Farms, except if you went through Harahan. And then they built back by Hickory and all that, and opened that Hickory Avenue, but that wasn't there years and years ago. Little Farms was that little bridge, and that's how we got over to the Airline Highway.
In 1940, the area was introduced to another highway, known as Airline Highway, which would be its main thoroughfare into the city, and thus paved the way to new suburban life in River Ridge.
Part of the suburban boom of New Orleans in the 60s and 70s. So what happens is you had a lot of new growth, new homes, and lots of families.
When they built this subdivision by us, that was in 1959, that was one of the first parade of homes.
The River Ridge kind of grew in little patches, and there wasn't a lot of planning into it. So it doesn't have that homogeneous feel like so many modern neighborhoods do. Every block is different. You can go down one street and every block is different, and the houses change architectural styles, but you still have this sense of really an eclectic vision.
There's a lot more development, I guess you could say, bigger houses, neighborhoods, filling in.
Everybody wanted to live in River Ridge. That was the place to live.
It was the flight. Like everybody was coming to River Ridge. It was the land of milk and honey, the suburbs.
However, in any community, with new things comes change.
The big thing that affected me, and I was very young, is that they changed the church parish when they made St. Matthew's to be Our Lady of Perpetual Help Parish. And just one day, the Archbishop says, now y'all St. Matthew.
Until June of 1979, the Catholic residents of the area would attend Mass in Kenner at Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church. However, due to the dense population of Catholics within this area of Jefferson Parish, it was decided that a new church would be formed to serve the residents in the area. Therefore, in 1959, construction began for the soon-to-be St. Matthew the Apostle Church, and soon after, in 1960, the church was joined by a convent and an elementary school.
We had 6 children, and they all went to school across the street. The grammar school was built in 1960, St. Matthew, and I taught there the 3rd grade. Now I have grandchildren that are there.
The school began with an enrollment of only 425 students in its first year, holding grades 1 through 5. However, with the number of students increasing, the elementary school grew in size and soon became a grammar school, teaching children from grades 1 through 8.
St. Matthew, I went there. The nuns were teaching when I was there, so that's different too.
The Teresian nuns, ran the school. That was the principal. We always had a Teresian nun.
I went to St. Matthew. My kids went to St. Matthew's.
I guess you want your kids to have the same experience you did, growing up.
Our kids do the same thing to our kids. Today, before we got here, are out riding their bikes right now with their friends. They're, the same streets. Elm Street was always fun.
It was a cut-through street.
Elm Street was a cut-through. We used to meet at Elm Street in the mornings before school, before we'd all ride to St. Matthew, and just hang out there for like 20 minutes before we'd get on our bikes and go to school.
It became somewhat of a central hub for the community to meet and interact with one another by attending the school, communing after Mass, or being involved in any of the functions and organizations developed by the church and school.
in St. Matthew Church, where in school grounds, where I grew up, and I know so many people. I go to Mass there still. I see people that I went to school with at St. Matthew 40, 45 years ago, and it's kind of neat to see that.
We're still friends with those same people that we went to school with at St. Matthew.
That was a big thing. I had friends from when the kids started school. You just made good friends, and you still have them.
I mean, look, we worship there. My kids have gone to school there straight for 10 years, and I work there. So it's such a big part of our lives, you know.
It's a caring community. We look out for each other in this, and it's through the church that I think has made our children like that, the families like that, where everybody just looks out for one another. And that's a really strong aspect of living in River Ridge.
River Ridge just got named about, I guess, 25, 30 years ago. They had Harahan, and then they had Kenner. They really didn't have a name for it, so everybody referred to it as Little Farm because of the playground.
Little Farms, though not an officially agreed upon name, well described the area's pre-urban history and remained the default title some residents of the area began using to refer to their place of residency. However, the collective consensus of a name for the area was felt by few. Soon various subdivisions of the would-be Little Farms began adopting their own names, such as East Bank or Rural Acres. Until this time, the area was recognized for mailing purposes as New Orleans 70123. Thus, a great amount of confusion ensued in the post office. Clerical errors were made, and tax revenues were mistakenly given to the Orleans Parish instead of Jefferson Parish. The parish council even began sending letters to residents in the area, informing them that their addresses will soon be changed from New Orleans, Louisiana to Harahan, Louisiana. This letter prompted a group of citizens to approach the parish council and request the opportunity to allow residents to choose a name for the community.
Had a bunch of subdivisions, and they just decided that it's a census area, and they decided to give it a name.
A committee comprised of residents involved in various organizations throughout the area was appointed the responsibility of naming the community. The selection process began with 3 names: Little Farms, Sauve, and River Ridge. However, soon a flood of suggestions began pouring in, and it was decided that ballots with every suggested name would be sent to every home in the area, asking each household to pick from the suggested list of names.
Name in the city.
We named, yes.
They had Pierre Sauve was one
Little
name.
Farms
Little
was
Farms,
one.
River Ridge, and a few others. I think those were the last 3. But we got the names.
I voted for Little Farm. My family did.
We were No Name City, you know.
Well,
But
still
Abilene
not
was
city.
great. Well, No Name Place.
A lady by the name of Shirley Whitson worked on the deal of changing Little Farms to River Ridge. And she was very determined she was going to change the name, and got it done.
After a runoff election between Little Farms and River Ridge, in which over 3,000 ballots were counted, on June 6, 1974, the small unincorporated area of Jefferson Parish along the Mississippi River between Harahan and Kenner became forever known as River Ridge, Louisiana. Although some residents were originally unsure of the name change, the recognized name of the area allowed residents to feel more connected as a community, and almost all subdivisions conceded to the name change.
Well, at the time I was attached to Little Farms because this is Little Farms subdivision where I live, and so I was attached to it. But I'm not, you know, I got used to River Ridge quick, and it was okay with me.
After the area's recognition by the post office under a collective name, a flood of residency ensued, and it wasn't long before the community grew exponentially in size, creating a dense population for the once rural area. Businesses began to take note of the once geographically secluded no-name community, and soon the community formed popular hotspots where all the residents would go to meet.
The places where people go to commune in current day.
Like PJ's?
PJ's Coffee House recognized the potential of a small-town environment and took a chance placing one of its many stores into an unknown small-town suburb in 1993. Luckily, the plan proved extremely beneficial as dozens of the area's residents began making a stop at PJ's, part of their daily routine.
PJ's is definitely my home away from home. I'm there at least twice a week doing homework. I know the names of the managers, everyone that works there.
We have a group that go to PJ's every morning, and it's like if you don't show up, they're wondering what happened to you. And on Sunday, it's the same thing. We have about 10 couples that go.
For the past 20 years, this particular PJ's has become one of the most frequented locations in the River Ridge area and has become somewhat of a landmark for all River Ridgians.
Well, I'll tell you, our community here is very strong and it's very constant. We have a lot of regular customers. There are customers that I've seen here every day since I started working here 17 years ago. There are customers that I've seen every day for the last 12 years since I've owned the place. There are customers that are 12, 13 years old that I have been serving since they were, born basically. So to see so much of this community grow up and to be such a stable part of the community for that long is really interesting. We become a part of their lives on a daily basis, and I think that's why we have such a great loyal group of customers, and I think that's why we've been able to survive for 20 years.
However, PJ's isn't the only location that has played a major role in tying the community together.
I was a teenager when I moved here, and there were very few teenagers, and so we used to get together at the park. I would venture to say there were 10 to 12 teenagers in all of what they call Little Farms there.
Little Farms Playground, for which the area was originally named, has persevered since as far back as the 1940s. Learning and playing various sports at the playground has since become an important milestone in any River Ridge child's upbringing.
Little Farms Playground is our main playground around here. We play all sports on this one field. Soccer, baseball. Only one that's inside is basketball.
But the playground has been great. They met a lot of good people, and just, that's another area where it's a good sense of community, and you know everybody there, you get to know people and make good friends and connections. They played everything. Football, baseball, soccer.
I spent a lot of times at Little Farms doing cheerleading, playing softball. One crazy summer, Mom hooked us up into a day camp that was at Little Farms Playground. So every morning we'd go down there for 3 hours and do arts and crafts and drink hot milk and crummy sandwiches.
I was the girl that would play every sport. So Little Farms is kind of a second home to me because I was either skinning my knees on the volleyball court or getting dirt all over myself on the soccer field, and I've made so many great friends there, and it's part of River Ridge.
These areas of the community became frequented locations for all River Ridge residents. They began getting to know each other through their interactions at these places, and it wasn't long until these residents began to form a community.
Since River Ridge is so small, the community is very tightly knit. I can't go anywhere without running into someone that I know or that knows someone else who knows me, and it's not always a good thing, but it gives you a really safe feeling, and it's just nice.
Because it is somewhat isolated as far as inlets, outlets to major other areas, Metairie and whatever, it becomes a more close-knit area.
The River Ridge area is home to approximately 13,500 people living in a 3.6 square mile radius.
Because you go to the hardware store and you run into people, you go to the grocery store and you run into people. Everybody's out at once.
I was somewhere the other night, and the lady came up to me, and I knew her, and I said something, and I said, "I must know you from St. Matthew." She said, "Yeah, my son's 29 years old." She said, and we weren't even near River Ridge when I saw. But that's interesting, the people that I see in all these years.
Because we have basically one church and one school and, one playground, everybody attends that, that school, or most people attend that school and that church, St. Matthew. And we're all centered around that. We all kind of know each other. I mean, you can't go anywhere without knowing somebody.
I think River Ridge has taught me the importance of community, and I think that's something that's very important here because you know your neighbors, you know the people that live 2 streets away from you.
The beauty of this whole neighborhood, you can't go anywhere without knowing somebody. You go to church, you go to Bromart, you run into people, And that's what I love about it, you know. You can't walk the block without talking to so many people. It's an old, small town feeling right here near the city. It's beautiful. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
And people used to be people that moved out here, they stayed out here. Nobody jumped around. Everybody pretty much stayed. They loved it.
Most of my friends are in River Ridge, and I think I don't want to ever leave River Ridge.
We really feel like we've lived here longer than anywhere else, and I feel rooted a little bit, so I like that feeling. I like knowing and recognizing people when I go places.
You know, that's the running joke about River Ridge. You never leave once you once you grow up here. You know,
You're always with the people that you want to be with.
and we wanted that for our kids. That's one of the reasons why we stayed. We want that for our kids. We want them to feel comfortable and like this is their home. And River Ridge is good for that because they are going to see the same kids over and over again. The places we lived before, people were a little more transient because they were military towns, big military towns, so people didn't necessarily stay forever, you know, like they do here. They really do.
You have 3 and 4 generations of the same family living within 2 miles of one another, and they don't go far away. So it's really it's an interesting thing. It's the connection that people have with the area. It's the community.
That's one thing you want to remember is that River Ridge is unincorporated Jefferson Parish, so there is no police force, there's no city hall, there's no structure that says you are a community. The community is very organic here. You know, it's a community because of the church, the school, people, relatives, common connections, but there's no civic structure to it because it's unincorporated. So it's really it's a different feel from, say, Harahan or Kenner, which are incorporated cities. We're kind of an organic community that identifies itself through its social connections, you know, and through the fact that we do kind of stand apart in a way. You know, there's a distinct difference between Harahan and River Ridge, even though we're right up against each other.
Everybody here is one big family. You know, you can go anywhere you want, and you pretty much know everybody here. Families, generations have lived here for a long time, and it feels like one big home as opposed to separate homes in one area.
You're going to come back, you're going to recognize these homes and a lot of these people, no matter what. And that's not true of bigger places.
And it becomes a community. Every year we have the fair, and basically these people become your extended family because you're always there. And just playing the sports teams, and it's where I got my start, so.
It's comfortable. I know so many people, and I'm so imbued into the community. I can't go any place without talking to someone I know, but you know, it's where I'm from.
You know, people just knew everybody, and I still feel that way. I mean, this has changed some, and of course Sauve Road now, it's got so many new houses and all, but at one time there were just 4 houses.
This documentary has been an opportunity for me to give back to the community I've grown to know and love in the past 21 years. It's where I went to school, where I played Little League, where I attend Mass, and where I made my first friends that I still have to this day. And it's where I hope to one day raise a family of my own. I saw this project as an opportunity to uncover everything I could about how my hometown came to be, and share what I found with my community and future generations to come. My hope is that this documentary will be beneficial to viewers in learning more about the history of our small suburb and how important this community is to the residents of River Ridge, Louisiana. Thank you.